if you can do it in your own strength, it's not true victory. You see, true victory comes from when God intervenes and steps in, and when God does it. How many of the victories in your life can you attribute to God, or how many of them to yourself? How many victories in your life will you say that if that wasn't God, there was no way that that could have happened? Don't you want more of that, of the true victory? So what the Bible says about true victory, it says that true victory comes from exalting God, by humbling yourself and raising up God, putting God first. That is how true victory comes. Let me use David as an illustration. In Psalms 57, he's hiding from Saul. He's hiding in the caves, and he cries out to God and tells God about all this evil that's coming against him. But in verse 5 and verse 11 he says, "Be thou exalted, O God, above the heavens, and thy glory above all the earth." He repeats it twice in the Psalms. So in the midst of his trial, he's asking God that God would be exalted. What does it mean to be exalted? That God would be first. And God will take first place in his heart during the trial. So often when we go through circumstances, we cry out to God to help us in our circumstances. But the cry of our heart is not that he would be exalted. You see, oftentimes solutions can come up for our situation, for our trials, that might not glorify God. And so often we choose to try and do it by ourselves. You see, he says in Psalm 57 verse 7, David says, "My heart is fixed, O God, my heart is fixed." He says, I'm not going to be moved by these circumstances. All I want to do is I want to exalt you during the circumstances. I want you to think about this. David had two opportunities to kill Saul. And his men came to him and said, "Yeah, look, God has given you your answer. He's brought you your enemy in your hand. Now you can go kill him." But what did David do? David said, "No, God forbid that I would lay my hand on this." David was saying, it might look like this is from the hand of God, but God is not going to let me do something evil to accomplish my desires. I want Saul to be dead. I want to be king. But I'm not going to do it that way. If you think about how they did things in the Bible, that one king killed another king and then he reigned. And David didn't have to do it. He said, if it's God's will, God will take care of Saul. And God did. And David became king even though he did not kill Saul. And then when people look at him, they could say that was the grace of God. Why? Because they were singing. They say, look at Saul. He killed his hundreds, but David's his thousands. How can one man kill thousands? They knew that this was a man of God. Another example of David, he was fleeing from his son Absalom. And a guy came out of a city in 2 Samuel 16, and he was cursing David. And David's men wanted to go kill this man. And David said, "No, leave this man alone." It says, maybe God will see this man cursing me, and then God will have mercy on me, and God will exalt me. You see, he didn't try and promote himself. He didn't try and seek his own. He didn't try and exalt himself. He chose to humble himself and exalt God during the trials. If you think about Jesus, for instance, in the same way this happened with Jesus. Jesus humbled himself and he became obedient. He came to this earth, and he humbled himself to the point of death. And he says in Philippians 2 verse 8 and 9 that therefore God exalted him. In verse 10, he gave him the name that is above every name, because Jesus humbled himself. You see, oftentimes we want to try and do it ourselves. Now, if David tried to kill Saul by himself, he would have been victorious, but it wouldn't have been true victory. You see what I'm trying to put in your heart here, is that you would seek that victory that comes from God only when you're in the midst of the trial. You see, who is going to win? If you got a need and you need something car, let's say you need a car, and somebody brings a stolen car. You ask God for a car, and now somebody comes and he says, yeah, you can buy the stolen car. And you might say, whoa, look at the price. This is from God. So it's like, no. Who's going to be exalted? Are you going to exalt God? Are you going to put him first in this circumstance? When you're in a relationship, in a bad relationship, and your friend wants you to do certain things that you're not supposed to do, who are you going to exalt? You're going to exalt yourself? You're going to go after what you want? Or you're going to exalt God and put him first? Oftentimes, people call themselves Christians. They believe in God. They date somebody, and when it gets to marriage, they realize that this person is not a child of God, and they know that 2 Corinthians 6:14 says, be not unequally yoked together with unbeliever. But then they say, no, I'm going to choose my way. I'm not going to exalt God in the situation. You see, what you have to realize is the Bible does it backwards. For you to succeed, you have to humble yourselves, not like the world. You see, the thing is James 4:6 says that God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace to the humble. If you are full of pride and you're going to try and do it yourself, you're going to come into opposition with God. But in verse 10 he says, humble yourself, and then God will lift you up. In Matthew it says the same. In the Gospels it says the same. It says that whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, but he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. So if you want true victory, it comes from putting God first. Think about the things you're going through now, and what are you willing to do for victory in those areas that you are struggling? Are you willing to put God first in those areas? Humble yourself today and exalt God. God bless.